One Piece Film Red was probably one of the most confusing movies I've ever watched. And it's not some bullshit like, oh dude, it's just super complex and deep and stuff. It's just hard to understand what's ever even going on. But before I start in on this movie, I'd like to talk about some of the stuff I liked. I like a lot of the animation in this movie for the most part. It's very fluid and it seems to be pretty high budget. Although sometimes with the animation, I feel like the camera will move around so much that it's hard to tell what's happening. Also, there are certain shots in the movie that I can tell are CGI, and they don't appear noticeably super often, but when they do appear, they're definitely distracting. Damn it, positive. Think positive. I also don't find the acting particularly bad. We went to go see the dub of this movie, even though I prefer to see the original subbed version. But some people didn't want to, you know who you are. But despite that, none of the performances were all that bad. Although none of them were extremely memorable either, so I don't know. Who knows, maybe I would have liked it better if it was the sub instead of the dub, but we'll never know now. Alright, that's all I got for good stuff. Now I'm gonna move on to the dumb stuff. God, this movie shouldn't have been 2 hours long. It's so poorly paced. 20 minutes into the movie, on the third musical number, one of my friends turned over to my other friend and said, "What is this movie?" There's so many characters in this movie and they spend the first 20 minutes setting up everything, and by the end of it, I feel like I don't even know anyone. The only people I really know are Luffy, Uta, and Shanks, and I only know Luffy because he's the main character and I've heard of him before. There are flashbacks to Uta and Luffy as kids, and when Uta sings, it does not sound like a child singing at all.
この風はどこから来たのと言い
And to get into some of the more weird, specific, and confusing stuff, I'm gonna have to start getting into spoiler talk. So if you don't want spoilers for the movie, click the time code in the description or chapters or wherever. 3, 2, 1. Okay, so I don't really feel this is much of a spoiler because I feel like it's pretty easy to call, but despite that, the movie has a lot of build up to it, and I feel like it tries super hard to make you go, whoa, no way. Uta becoming evil was not all that surprising. Like, after the first song, I thought to myself, I wonder if she's gonna be the villain of the movie, and then she was. Also, there's this whole subplot with a bunch of side characters where they go to this old library, and they go there so they can figure out some sort of information on how to beat Uta's powers. By the way, her powers are that she sings and it makes people fall asleep and go into like this dream world where she can basically control everything. Kind of. I guess the more she sings, the more she can create these like weird singing lines constructs that hold people, but people can sing the notes right in order to get out of them, I guess. I'll admit it makes a little more sense when you watch it yourself, but it's still kind of confusing how it works, but yeah, whatever. People also still have their powers in the dream world. There's also this whole big event that caused Uta to want to go and do everything she does in this movie, which is basically create a perfect world or whatever. It's supposed to be some sort of weird like sympathetic villain, like, oh, she's not really that bad, she just wants to help people and end all suffering, but the way she goes about it is by like trapping a bunch of people in a dream, and people can't like go out and go see their families and stuff and all the typical bad stuff that comes from doing this. But anyway, the whole reason she wants to create this whole world of no suffering and everything is because when she was a kid, her father Shanks supposedly abandoned her and then killed all the people on this island she was on. And then it's revealed later on in the movie that it actually wasn't Shanks that did this, but it was Uta in some weird state where she was being controlled by this weird demon. And that connects back to the library plot, where the side character, you remember that with the side characters and everything, there was this demon they found out about that has like similar powers to her, I guess, and it like used her power in order to kill a bunch of people, so technically all the people dying was her fault. But then there's another reveal that Uta actually knew this like a year before she decided to start acting on her plans and everything, so I don't even understand what her motivations are anymore. There's also these mushrooms she's eating the whole time to stay awake, and they explain that I guess they can mess with people's like inhibitions and cause them to be more emotional. That just feels like such a cop-out to me. Like, actually, she doesn't really have any motivations, she's just kind of crazy, and that's not sympathetic at all. That just makes you look like an asshole. Oh, boo-hoo, I murdered a bunch of people when I was a kid. that's no excuse to go and destroy a bunch of people's lives and eat mushrooms that make you stay awake but angrier. I don't. What is happening? So yeah, that's all I really have to say about the movie. It's pretty dumb. I can't even say that if you like One Piece that you'll enjoy it. I went to go watch this with a friend who's read like every chapter of the manga and he didn't seem to enjoy it much either. But I don't hate it or anything. It's not the worst movie ever. It's just extremely confusing to understand what's ever happening. 4 out of 10. Probably not worth your time.
I read about did you say want to a 10-year-old?